I'm going to read the final chapter of our story, Oliver Moon and the Spider's Spell. The mayor and lots of members of the crowd all turned at Oliver's shout. What's the answer? The mayor asked, beaming. Oliver told them what had happened with his sister and the vitamins this morning. When Dad tried to give them to her on a spoon, she wouldn't open her mouth, he explained. But as soon as he put the vitamin liquid on a biscuit, she gobbled it up. Gobble, gobble, the witch baby agreed. But what does this have to do with the spider? The mayor asked, confused. It's the same thing, Oliver told him. While we're trying to give Horace something he doesn't like the look of, he's not going to eat it. But if we disguise the pill in something Horace will eat, brilliant, the mayor cried, and there was a buzz of admiration from the crowd. What a clever little wizard, Oliver heard someone say. Mr. Moon landed just then, looking disappointed. He wouldn't even try it, he said with his shoulders slumped. Don't worry, Dad, we have an idea, Oliver said. He pulled out the tub of spider food from his pocket. If we stick this all over the antidote pill, Horace might give it a try. Mr. Moon clapped him on the back. Great thinking, Oliver, he cried. Let's do it. A few minutes later, the purple pill looked like a huge slab of spider food covered in dried flies and insects. Oliver took a deep breath. I'll take it up to him, he offered. He might be suspicious if you do it again, Dad. Are you sure, Mr. Moon asked? It's quite tricky steering the broomstick and holding the pill at the same time, you know. Perhaps I should try, the mayor volunteered, with a glance at Horace. Oliver put a leg over his broomstick. No, I'll go, he said. He knows me, and besides, I got us into this mess, so I will get us out of this mess. Good luck, Mr. Moon said, clapping him on the back. Oliver kicked off into the air, the pill tucked under one arm. Horace was now making a thick web between the town hall and the shopping centre, and several unsuspecting witches and wizards had already flown straight into it on their broomsticks, getting completely stuck. Oliver's heart pounded as he approached Horace. The closer he got, the more intimidated he felt by the sheer size of his sister's pet. Horace's legs were as long as a tree trunk's, his jaw was worryingly big and sharp-looking, and his eyes were scarily beady, as if they could see right into Oliver's mind. Oliver's hands trembled as he steered the broomstick nearer the web. He was aware of the hushed silence below as everyone watched. He had to get this right. He had to make things okay again. Here goes, he muttered and held out the fly-covered pill so that Horace could see it. Horace, it's me, Oliver, he called softly. I've brought you some yummy food. I thought you might be hungry. Horace stared at the pill, unblinking. Then he looked at Oliver. I'll leave it here just for you, Oliver said, putting it carefully on a corner of the web. And when you get hungry, you can come and eat it. Okay. Oliver backed away slowly on his broomstick, hoping with all his heart that Horace was peckish after his silk spinning. Any time you want, Horace, he said, trying to sound encouraging. Inside, though, he was starting to worry. Why wasn't Horace coming over? Had he guessed it was a trick? He waited for a few moments, but he was fast losing hope. It wasn't going to work, was it? Just another of his stupid ideas. Just like the cauldron incident. Why had he never thought this was going to be a good plan? He turned to fly back down, his spirits sinking. Sorry, everyone, he called. I guess it didn't. But nobody was looking at him. Everyone's eyes was fixed on a point just behind him. And then, all of a sudden, there was a great gasp of excitement, and Oliver almost fell off his broomstick in surprise. He swerved round just in time to see Horace gobbling down the pill. There was a loud whizzing sound and a bright green flash of light, and Horace vanished from sight. Ooh, the crowd as they were watching fireworks. Then came a squeak of joy from the witch baby down below. Horace, you small again. Oliver peered down to see his sister picking up her spider, who was now a tiny black dot on her palm. And then the crowd burst into cheers and applause. He'd done it! The antidote had worked. This boy's a hero, someone cried, and everyone cheered again as he came down to land. People crowded round Oliver, congratulating him and shaking his hand. The mayor even gave him a big hug. Oliver beamed, relieved that the crisis seemed to be over. A team of council wizards started cutting down the spider silk, using special gloves so they didn't stick to them. One by one, the wizards and witches who'd been trapped in the silk were set free, and everyone began going about their business again. Well, almost everyone. Oliver's heart sank as Mrs. Beardbristle stomped over towards him. Her mouth set a grim line. Your children, she said, stabbing a finger at Mr. Moon, have been causing trouble all day. Mr. Moon glanced at Oliver, then fished in his pocket and took out a packet of what looked like yellow sweeties. Care for one of these, Mrs. B, he said politely, opening the bag and holding it out to her. Then he gave Oliver a wink. A sweet? I say it was the least you could do, she sniffed. She thrust her hand inside and drew out one of the yellow things, unwrapping it and popping it into her mouth. Did you know what they did this morning, those cheeky little children of yours? They. Then she stopped abruptly. A strange expression came over her face, one that Oliver had never seen. It was almost like, no, surely it couldn't be. Surely it wasn't a smile on the face of her, on the old neighbour's face, was it? What I was saying, she said dreamily, bending down to ruffle the witch baby's hair. Hello, Pumpkin. Aren't you adorable? Oh, yes, the witch baby agreed. Me adorable. Oliver stared in amazement at the change that had become of the ferocious Mrs. Beardbristle. Was this some kind of trick? Why was she being so unusually pleasant? And dear Oliver, growing up so nicely, she said, patting him on the head and smiling at him. Anyway, must get on. Goodbye. Oliver stared at his dad, and Mrs. Beardbristle bustled away down the high street. What just happened? He asked. Mr. Moon beamed and held up the bag. These cules are brilliant, he replied. I bought them for your mum to cure her flu, but it seems they cure bad tempers too. Oliver laughed. To think he'd ever thought this day was going to be boring. Coolly said, let's go and give Mum one of them. If they're strong enough to sort out Mrs. B, they'll make Mum much better in no time. The prickleberries should be ready now too. Mr. Moon hoisted the witch baby back into her baby seat on the broomstick. Now hold on tight to Horace, he instructed, and no more spider spells. She shook her head. No more spidey spells, she repeated. Oliver grinned as he swung his leg over his broomstick. For once he was glad to hear his sister copying something. Too right, sis, he said. Let's go home. And they did. Hope you've enjoyed the story.